Today's guest is Seth Greene. He's an 8-time best-selling author, he's an entrepreneur, and he has a podcast with the original Shark Tank shark, Kevin Harrington. Seth, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here and share with your audience.
One of the things that stuck out about your background is you do a YouTube show with your daughter. How's that?
Yes, we're actually delayed. We haven't done that in a while. We've been slacking. I think we got up to like episode 88. Yes, that was the Ella and Daddy show where we talked about, she's 11 now, and we talked about marketing. It started out as I was doing a challenge with Russell Brunson from ClickFunnels, and Russell Brunson said, you got to publish every day. So you got to do something. So I started doing a show by myself, and it was the first 9 rules for marketing, for direct response marketing. And then when I got like rule number 3, I was upstairs recording it in my bedroom, upstairs at home instead of at the office. And Ella came upstairs and crashed the episode and just joined in. And then all of a sudden she kept showing up every day, and people started commenting on her, not me. So it became the Ella and Daddy show as opposed to, the Seth marketing show.
Yeah.
And then now my wife is one of the top 100 mommy bloggers. Her book just came out on Amazon, hit number 2, and she does a weekly show called Whiny Palooza Wednesdays about the blog and about parenting 3 very active little children. So Ella does the theme song and the outro song for that. So she's getting involved all over the place.
So, 88 episodes I don't call that slacking. That's pretty good.
Well, I'm slacking because we haven't done one in a little while because she's been on my wife's show every week, and we've got such a backlog of podcast guests for our show that I'm probably recording a couple a day.
Yeah.
So when I'm done for the day, she's been really busy before COVID hit, and now she's got a million Zooms every day as opposed to going to activities. So I haven't been going every day because we're publishing every day anyway. I haven't been going, honey, we got to do another episode, but we really should at least get to 100. So thank you for reminding me.
So publishing every day, you're publishing like every hour, it sounds like.
Well, we don't air that often, but yes, I think we've got episodes in the can until like August. We're way ahead, and we may have to start airing them. We air 3 times. We went from airing once a week to 3 times a week to keep up. We may have to air every day for like a month or 2 just so that we get caught up, so that we're not interviewing people that we say, hey, thanks for being on the show. We'll air your show in 3 months.
You mentioned, sort of producing content every day. I mean, for the person that doesn't understand that, what do you say to them about the value of publishing every day, or at least doing it a few times a week?
So for our clients where we do our done-for-you podcasting services for them, we tell them to air once a week. Because the average business owner can get their head around that. They can say, oh, I can do half an hour once a week. I can skip Game of Thrones. I can skip American Idol on Zoom. I can do once a week, and everybody gets that. And then we have our more ambitious clients who will say, hey, can I do more often? We say, yes, of course. So value of publishing every day, you're in front of more people more often. So your audience will grow, the more often that you publish. So if you air once a week, you might have a certain level of fan base, and we'll call that fan base X. But you might get to Y or Z if you publish more often, because people there is more content being produced every day on YouTube in a day now that was aired in the history of network television. And if you think about that, 80% of that is junk. No offense to a lot of people, but I don't need another Elsa and Spider-Man run around the backyard video, which you can tell I have little kids, right? So, or I don't need, my son's 13, he's a gamer. I'm like, you spend all day, because you're home now, all day either playing video games or watching videos of other people play.
Yeah.
In my day, there was no internet. There was no videos of other people play. You had to figure everything out yourself.
Yeah.
So now he can play along with the game as he watches someone else do what he's doing 2 seconds later. So I would say the world is starving for good quality content, so they need you and they'll reward you for it if you do it.
When you're trying to advise someone what good quality content their idea of it is putting out their brochure or doing their sales pitch. How do you sort of change their mind or give them feedback on what great content looks like for the end user?
And it doesn't have to be great. So let me correct myself. It just has to be good enough.
Yeah.
It doesn't. My wife edited her book 3 times. And she wanted to edit it a fourth. I'm like, just put it out. But there might be typos. Honey, I've read New York Times bestsellers that still have typos. No one's going to not buy it because of that. You're not going to get any bad reviews. Just help people. So I would say it doesn't have to be great. It has to be good enough. And I would say it shouldn't be about you. Your content should be about your customer, your client, your prospect. They should be the hero. It should all be about them. So all of our podcasts are about the people we interview. All of my marketing videos are tips and tricks to help our people out there grow their businesses. So none of it is about me. None of it is about how fabulous we are or how wonderful I am. It's all about our client because, again, it's the whole know, like, and trust factor. They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So if all you do is talk about yourself, think of it as going to a networking event. If you walked into BNI or the Chamber of Commerce and you just walked around, handed out a business card, hi, nice to meet you, buy my stuff. Hi, nice to meet you, buy my stuff. You'd probably get kicked out of the party relatively quickly, right?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be that guy. But think about it. If Facebook is the backyard barbecue, and you're sitting around 6 feet apart, drinking your not Corona, that's a bad word now, drinking your whiskey and having a burger, and some stranger jumps into the party, steals meat off your grill and goes, buy my stuff, somebody's going to punch him out. But we have no problem acting like that as when we market our business. And we have to realize if you want to be a welcome guest instead of an uninvited pest, you've got to make it all about them because everybody's favorite radio station is WIFM. What's in it for me?
Yeah, that makes sense. So just not to transform into that guy when you get behind a keyboard.
Or a camera.
Yeah. There's lots of people starting to do podcasts now. I mean, what do you say to someone that's saying, well, how do you stand out?
So that's a great question. Podcast is the new radio. They're trying to replace traditional FM radio. Joe Rogan just signed $100 million deal to take his podcast exclusively to Spotify. I mean, that's insane. I mean, that's bigger than TV. That's like Howard Stern money or TV money. So it just goes to show you the power of a podcast and having a media platform. So how do you stand out? I don't know that you're gonna. I don't know. It depends. So I don't think you should be trying to stand out. You're not going to be, and depending on, unless you've already got the following, you're not going to be Joe Rogan. You're not going to be Tim Ferriss or Tony Robbins. They were famous before the podcast. And they just took their listeners and their viewers and their event attendees and their book readers to their podcast platform. So they're not a good example unless you're already famous. I would say the goal isn't to be famous. You're not going to be number one on iTunes or new and noteworthy. The goal is to get your podcast in front of a small micro niche target market of the right listeners who are your ideal clients, customers, or prospects. One of our I started my show and we landed our first client off of my show when I had 9 listeners and 4 of them worked for me. And it was one of the guests. The one guest on the first episode said, oh, that was cool that you put me on a podcast. Let's talk about that. And I said, okay, I guess we got to figure that out. And we had our first podcasting client was a golf coach. And he was doing golf lessons in person in a local market at $75 an hour. Wow. And he landed his first $50,000 client for golf coaching as a Fortune 500 CEO from someone he interviewed on his podcast about Fortune 500 CEOs in golf. And literally, it was like episode number 2. I don't think they had more than 10 or 15 listeners. So it's not about growing, I want 10,000 downloads a week. What good is that really going to do you if 9,990 of them aren't going to buy from you? Just focus on the 10 people who are.
Yeah, that's a very good perspective. Now, you have a very strong direct response background. I guess you were recognized by Dan Kennedy as well. What sort of things have you learned in the direct response world that you pull into your business?
I mean, our entire business is based on direct response marketing. We could probably spend 3 days, 12 hours a day and not run out of topics.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a couple.
Sure.
I would say the biggest marketing sin is being boring. Talks about how are you going to stand out? Well, if you're a financial advisor and you work at Morgan Stanley and I take off the Morgan Stanley logo from your brochure and put on a Merrill Lynch logo and everything is factually the same, then you're boring. The prospect can't tell the difference, right? What's the difference between Home Depot and Lowe's? I have no idea. I know the other day Lowe's had a shorter line, so we went there because Home Depot, the line was too long. But I couldn't tell you the difference. They're not standing out from each other. So I would say, don't be boring. How are you going to stand out? And you start determining that by determining who's your target market. if you could only work with one group of people for the rest of your career, and you would not only see them professionally, but you'd also see them personally and socially, who would you want to have give you money that you would like to hang out with as well? So is that baby boomer hunters with money? Is that left-wing liberals who give to the Sierra Club? Is that middle-aged women who just got divorced? Who do you want to hang out with and have pay you really well? And then build your podcast and your business around serving, or rebuild it around serving just those people, and it'll skyrocket.
Mm. How
You
much?
can't be all things to all people.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, do you want to create a little bit of separation between your company brand and the podcast brand to maintain credibility, or is aligning those two really close together better?
I don't know if it's a credibility issue. I think it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. If the podcast is, let's say we have 6 different marketing services we offer, and I was going to launch a podcast about one of those services.
Yeah.
Then the podcast would probably be named the name of the service. If I was using a podcast to promote my entire Market Domination LLC.com brand, then maybe the podcast would be called Market Domination. In our case, I co-host 2 shows and we produce, dozens and dozens and dozens of others for our clients. But I co-host SharkPrenur with Kevin from Shark Tank.
Yeah, yeah.
So that brand is based on his SharkPrenur, which he owned before we owned it together. So it was specifically around attracting the entrepreneurs who watch Shark Tank to watch or consume our show. And then we also co-host another show together called Startup Millionaires, which is around a specific product, a direct newsletter that people pay to subscribe to learn about the latest startups that are crowd-funded equity that they can invest in that will make them a millionaire. We're not giving investment advice on this show. Full disclaimers apply. But that show is specifically branded to one product and the only product it sells, whereas SharkPrenur is overarching to attract, we're trying to get the entrepreneurs who watch Shark Tank, who want to grow their businesses and want capital to come watch our show.
How'd you hook up with Kevin?
I kidnapped him. Now you laugh, but it's actually true. He was the Northeast Regional Conference for Entrepreneurs Organization that he co-founded with Michael Dell, happened to be in Buffalo about 6 or 7 years ago. And I didn't know what EO was, but I knew, huge fan of Shark Tank, knew who Kevin was. I moved all my meetings. I spent $300 to buy a ticket. I went, saw him speak, back of the room. He's signing autographs of his new book, taking selfies. I waited in line for my turn, and I said, I'm a marketing guy. I can't take a selfie. I can't ask for an autograph. Everybody's doing that. I have to stand out. I have to do something different. This is pre-Uber. So I said, Mr. Harrington, I'm here to take you to the airport.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, that's okay. I'll take a cab. And I said, no, they insist I'm supposed to take you to the airport. And he said, okay. I said, I got a meeting right after I finished signing autographs. Why don't you come to the meeting with me? You can sit on the side of the conference room. You can be a fly on the wall, watch me work. And then you can take me to the airport.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm in.
Yeah.
So my wife frantically said, you better go clean your car. Like, we have 3 little kids. She's like, get all the crap into the trunk so he doesn't sit on goldfish or spilled milk or anything. So I said I had to go to the bathroom. I cleaned my car. I drove very slow to the airport, which he does not know in Buffalo. It does not take 30 minutes to get there. I drove very slow, so I had more time to pitch. He liked my pitch. He said, okay, send me whatever it is that you want to send me about what you just said. That sounds good. I sent him a shock and awe box. He said, yes. That's how we started working together doing marketing for AsSeenOnTV.com, the infomercial brand he built. And then he sold that company and hired us to work on other companies in his portfolio that he owned equity in. So we started marketing his portfolio companies. And then he has a live event 3 times a year called Pitch Tank, which is a live version of Shark Tank, which he hired us to market and fill the room of investors who wanted to watch pitches live and be sharks. And then then he asked me to be a judge on the panel and help judge the companies. And then 2 years ago, we were having dinner before the event. And he said, what's the coolest thing you're doing right now? And I said, it's our Done For You podcast, Into Authority Maker, Grow Your Business Plan, grow your business service. And he said, oh, that's awesome. I want a podcast. I don't want to do any work. And I said, that's the whole point of our service. You can have a show and grow your business without doing any work except 1 episode a week. And he said, I'm in. He said, I'll do 1 episode a week with you, but you already have a show, right? I did. It was called Direct Response Marketing. That's what I was branding for. And he said, why don't I come co-host your show? We'll rebrand it as us together. and I'll promote. You do as many episodes as you want, but the one a week I do with you, I will promote to my following, which obviously is much more significant than mine.
You said a shock and awe box. Can you explain that?
Sure, that's another direct response marketing concept. So we had told him that we had identified 12 holes in his as seen on TV platform, marketing holes that we could fill that we thought were costing him 20% of his sales. And we could fix them. And he said, it's $1 billion a year company. You're telling me you can make me $200 million a year more, right? And I said, gulp. It's a little sweat. I said, sure, Mr. Harrington, we can get you 200 million more. And he said, okay, I'm in. Send me your proposal. So instead of a proposal, we sent a large aluminum briefcase.
Yeah.
It looks like a James Bond briefcase. It had a DVD. It was holding a DVD player.
Yeah.
And the DVD player had a message from me to him,
Yeah.
hey, Mr. Harrington, walking him through the analysis of the funnel, what we thought was missing. It had all my books in it. It had a letter explaining everything. It had a PowerPoint deck printed out and bound. It had a ton of stuff in it. And then, of course, when you open it and the DVD player pops up and starts saying, like, your mission, should you choose to accept it, it has a really cool shock and awe, hence the name factor, for him to go, oh, my God, this is like the coolest thing I've ever seen. No one's ever sent me anything like this. I'm in.
It sounds like you've used that tactic more than once, the box.
Yes, we send them out as often as we can, as long as we can fulfill. We've got the bandwidth to fulfill the business because we get a high percentage of people who buy from getting something like that in the mail.
Obviously, the one you created for Kevin was very customized. Can you describe some of the other type of boxes that you sent out, or is it a kind of a similar playbook? I'm assuming you come up with different ideas.
We do. So we've done them for lots of different clients, some much less fancy than that. Yeah. There's a personal injury law firm where it's a UPS envelope. It's not a fancy box. Yeah. And there's a folder that holds a copy of their book and a whole bunch of material about whatever it is the person requested. Yeah. So that would be like the smallest version that might cost 10 or 20 bucks.
Yeah.
We have people who do them in large boxes where, depending on how much material we can stuff in there, we've done DVD players, we've done flash drives, we've done iPads. It depends on the size of the prospect. So if it's worth it, I'll spend more money.
Yeah, and as a direct response person, what is your typical response rate by the time you get to a point where you think the fits are good and you're willing to invest that money? What's the response rate on your box?
So I don't even want to tell you because your expectations will just be will be set too high. So I'm going to lower it. Let's say if you do the box right, at least half the people.
Okay.
Which is insanely high in marketing. At least half the people should respond. Your phone should ring.
You have the background to skill to kind of feel that out. So obviously you're qualifying that coming in. If someone just starts randomly sending boxes, they're not going to get
No, and it's too expensive to randomly send to me. You would not use this as prospecting. This is closing the deal. This is, you've got a qualified prospect. You know they're interested. You know they want. You know you've got their attention. You know how much money they might spend with you. And therefore, you could justify spending anywhere from $20 to $200. That's what mine cost to Kevin, was $200. But I mean, we've had clients that have spent. We had someone who wanted to get in front of Warren Buffett, so they spent a lot more than $200 to get through all of his levels of gatekeepers to actually land on his desk.
Wow! Did that get a phone call?
It did.
Nice.
It was a giant bowling pin. Because Warren Buffett is actually an avid bowler. So we had to find that out. And we sent it was like a 5-foot high bowling pin that was hollow in the middle where we put all the stuff. But obviously that can't go on the top of a mail pile, right? The receptionist can't throw it out. It's bigger than the garbage can. And where the heck is this crazy bowling pin going to cut? So obviously he had to see it.
What are some of the marketing trends that no one's talking about?
I would say what's not getting talked enough about now is actually direct mail.
Okay.
If you look in your mailbox, you're getting a whole lot less now. I used to, I have a separate weekly show called Fix My Marketing. Yeah. And we used to do 2 sections, Fix My Direct Mail and Fix My Online Ads.
Yeah.
And we've combined them lately into one. And I normally spend 80% of the time about online marketing because I used to get 20 or 30 pieces of direct mail selling me something. in the mail every week, and I would critique them on air and give you lessons as to how you could do better. And now, I mean, literally, I think last week I got 3, which makes no sense because everybody's home. A lot of people are home. So there should be more mail cluttering up my mailbox. So it's a better time than ever to do direct mail because you have less competition.
Someone was trying to get their head around that area. I mean, besides hiring a professional, I mean, what books should they read? You know, the classics. You know, that to get their head around a direct response and sort of direct mail.
I've actually got a list of my 18 top books of all time because I've read thousands, but I'll give you a couple. So if
Sure.
you're asking about direct mail, I would say The Ultimate Sales Letter by Dan Kennedy.
Hmm.
I would say Direct Response, No BS Direct Response Marketing by Dan Kennedy.
Yeah.
I would say Expert Secrets by Russell Brunson.
Okay.
And I'll give you The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes.
From all the stuff you've done, what are you most proud of?
I'm proud that my wife got her book out.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
proud that she has over 1 million video views on Facebook.
Wow.
I'm proud that my daughter has a book, has got her book out. She's 11, and she got
Wow.
on TV, interviewed about her book, and she got 12, I think 13,000 Facebook followers.
Wow.
So I'm proud of both of them. And if you have to ask me about me, then I guess I'd say I'm proud of the awesome team we've built at MarketDominationLLC.com and how we've gotten to the point where we built the systems that a lot of our services can run without me. And I don't have to micromanage the process. And I'm getting to the point of where we're thinking now, I'm no longer worried about day-to-day operations. I'm worried about scale. And then once we automate that part, I'm too young to just play golf, but we'll see what happens.
Do you have any hobbies?
I am a martial artist and I am a
Oh,
magician.
okay. Let's start with the martial arts. What style or what
I am a
area?
Yep, I'm a black belt in Krav Maga, which is the Israeli Army's martial art.
Wow. Okay. And the magician side, what got you into that?
Um, I was 8 years old and I learned that the Egyptian god of death, his name was Seth.
Okay.
So that got me into, and it was Set, but it was close enough. So I got into
Okay.
this occult phase of witches and wizards, and I was trying to, I got charcoal and the candle and the bell and the book, and I was trying to summon Satan in my basement because I wanted him to place a curse on the kid who was bullying me.
Yeah.
And he didn't show up, Satan, but my
Yeah.
mother did. And she's like, and she's like, I can't believe you got charcoal all over my carpet. Go do this in the basement, where I can clean the concrete floor. Like, what are you doing? And then my dad heard about it and he was not happy with me. So they decided if I was going to be spiritual in this way, he got me a deck of tarot cards and said, you could tell the future that way. You don't need to summon anybody and upset your mother. So there was a store 2 blocks from my grandmother's house. It was a magic store,
Mm.
but they also sold Halloween stuff and they also sold other stuff. So I went there. There was no internet back then. So I went there to buy a book on how to read my tarot cards, how I could act, because there was no instructions. So I went to go buy a book. And when I walked in, the guy behind the counter was doing a magic trick for someone who was buying it. He was showing them, this is what you're going to learn how to do if you buy this. And I saw it and I said, oh my God, that is cool. Forget the tarot cards. I want that. And that was the first trick I ever bought. And I became a professional magician like less than a year later and started doing birthday parties.
Wow.
And it's what got me into marketing because I wanted to learn how to grow my magic business.
Really? Okay. How big did you grow your magic business?
At one point, I was the busiest, most expensive magician in Western New York where I lived.
Wow. You took up marketing to promote your magic business. What can magic teach you about running a good business?
That's a great question. So I would say you have to surprise and delight your customers, right? Because magic, you don't know what's going to happen. That's part of the magic of it. If you saw the same trick twice, you wouldn't be as impressed the second time. So I would say you have to surprise and delight your customers. You have to show up in a way that nobody else does. You can't be boring. You have to know that sometimes you have to practice for the mistakes. So no trick goes perfect every time, no matter how many times you practice it. So I learned to practice for what could go wrong so that when it went wrong, I was prepared to handle it and it didn't screw up everything. So I would say those would be some of the biggest principles I've taken from magic.
What's the best and the coolest trick you've ever seen? Can you describe that?
Wow, I've got to narrow it down.
Just
Okay.
give me what pops into your head. Like, wow, how do they do that?
Okay, so I'll give you 3.
Okay.
1 you'll have seen, 2 you'll have never heard of.
Okay.
1 would be David Copperfield flying,
Okay.
which is awesome.
Yeah.
And that is a big stage illusion. And then I would say my 2 favorite close-up magicians are friends of mine who are nationally recognized magicians, Garrett Thomas and Joshua Jay. They've been Joshua Jay's been on The Tonight Show. He's with Jimmy Fallon. He's been on Masters of Illusion. He's been on every TV magic show.
Sure.
Like fries my brain. I would say Garrett does a trick where I will not do it justice explaining it. I know we're running out of time, but
Sure.
literally where his driver's license shows up in your wallet.
Oh.
Right. That's what you're like
Yeah.
literally while you're holding it, like you're holding his driver's license and suddenly it's in your wallet and you're holding they switch. It's crazy. I can't even explain it right. Cause it just, your brain is like, huh? What the heck just happened? So I think that's one of my favorite tricks of Garrett's. And then Joshua J does did an amazing mind reading trick with Jimmy Fallon on The Tonight Show. Again, I won't do it justice, but it had, Jimmy avoided, getting bit by a snake because it was really cool. If you go Google it, you'll find it. And I got to give you Adam Wilbur, who's also been on Penn and Teller's Fool Us, as has Joshua J. They both won. Go check out all 3 of them.
To make marketing and business look easy, you got to put a ton of hours in. Obviously, to make magic look easy, you put a ton of hours. What's the back end of a magic trick look like? How many hours? What type of preparation to make just that 1 minute thing or thing look just effortless?
I told you I'd have to kill you. So I don't know the answer to that because every trick is different.
Yeah.
And again, you've got to think, I've been doing it for over 30 years.
Yes.
So a trick might take me 10 minutes, 20 minutes to master, but if I had tried it 30 years ago, it might have taken months. There are tricks. It depends on the level of difficulty. Like there's stuff that takes months to learn. There's stuff like you'll see if you watch Fool Us, Allison Hanning will always ask, how long did you work on this trick? And sometimes they're like, it took me 5 years to get it to where it is today. It just depends on the trick. Some are harder than others.
Wow.
But if you'd like to attract some customers like magic, go check out marketdominationllc.com.